Most of you who are executive directors never imagined fundraising would become the most important part of your job. You became leaders because you believed in a mission. You wanted to serve, you wanted to solve problems, to change lives. Then one day you discovered something no one had prepared you for. If the mission is going to grow, someone has to inspire generosity. And that someone is often you. But here's the problem: too many executive directors spend years trying to become better fundraisers. And I think they're chasing the wrong goal. The goal isn't becoming a better fundraiser, the goal is becoming a major gift leader that donors trust and will invest in. When that shift happens, everything changes. That is our focus on this episode. Let's huddle up. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to tell you about something I am incredibly excited to share. Over the years, I've coached hundreds of nonprofit leaders who all had one thing in common. They knew major gifts were essential to achieving their mission, but they lacked a clear roadmap for building the donor relationships that make those gifts possible. That's why I created the Major Gift Leadership Cohort. The inaugural cohort begins September 10th and runs through October 29th. Over 8 weeks, we'll work together in a small group coaching environment to build a practical, relationship based fundraising system you can implement immediately. The program includes exclusive video curriculum developed specifically for the cohort, weekly live coaching sessions, practical implementation assignments, a private community of nonprofit leaders, and a personal one on one coaching session with me. Enrollment is limited to just 15 participants, so every participant receives personalized guidance and support. Right now, you can join the priority access list. You'll receive early notification when registration opens. One full week of exclusive access before registration opens to the public, and an exclusive 10% early registration discount. To learn more and to join the priority access list, visit thefundcoach.com or click the link in the show notes. If you're ready to make this the season you build a sustainable major gift program, I'd love to have you join us in the Major Gift Leadership Cohort. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark, the Fund Coach. Great to be with you today. I really want to help those of you who are executive directors working for nonprofit organizations that where you don't have a whole lot of internal fundraising support. Your plate is full, managing everything else that's going on in the organization. And then there's this expectation that you probably didn't expect when you took the job, or you might have been told, oh, yeah, we need to raise money. Sometimes that's often mentioned as an aside. I distinctly recall this when I became an executive director for the first time 28 years ago. And it's daunting because most of us come into this role because we care deeply about the work. We have expertise in the space that we're overseeing, but yet we need resources. And we become the people responsible for the resources. And many executive directors resist fundraising because they believe fundraising is asking people for money. Now you're probably thinking, well, of course, Mark, that's the case. But that's a misunderstanding. Fundraising is simply one expression of leadership. Just one. See, leadership is casting a vision. That is part of building that trust and that relationship. Leadership is building trust. Leadership is inviting others to participate in something meaningful. people that you know have capacity and are passionate about your mission. And the money follows. Money follows leadership, not the other way around. See, we seem to think that, well, we need to raise money. We need to be perfect before we can execute. And part of this is about building that trust and inviting others to participate in something meaningful. The best fundraisers don't convince people to give. That's not it at all. They inspire people to believe. They inspire them to believe in the mission, believe in the impact that you're having on the people that you serve. See, that's the identity shift that many nonprofit leaders, especially executive directors, need to make. There's a big difference between saying, I have to raise money and saying, I develop partners who make our mission possible. Say that to yourself. I develop partners who make our mission possible. That's the objective. That's the difference between a fundraiser and a major gift leader. The major gift leader focuses on developing that partnership. Major gift leaders also build relationships before making the ask. I've said that many times during this podcast. It is what I harp on and teach so that there's clarity and understanding in what's important to that donor about who you are and what you do and what they will give and why they will give. So we have to listen more than we speak, and you have to lead with vision instead of need. And this is hard to do because when you are living in your day to day reality and you are faced with obstacles, fiscal obstacles that may not allow you to make payroll, right? I understand those realities. Or you are halfway through a fiscal year or at the beginning of a fiscal year or maybe towards the end of a fiscal year and you're just seeing the line be redder and redder because you're having a hard time figuring out how to turn this around. So when you're mired in that space of lack, that space of despair, it's hard to do this. But we have to lead with vision instead of need. We've got to not talk about what's happening inside of you, inside of ourselves. We have to talk about what's happening and what we want to happen with the mission going forward. Got to focus on vision. We have to focus on people, not transactions. Right? I always talk about fundraising being, converting the transactional giver into the relational donor who makes a transformational gift. We can't be concerned about transactions. We've got to focus on people. And we have to create confidence in the mission. That confidence comes from you as a leader. Right? You have to be confident and bold and not speak from a space of, we hope, we're wanting, we're wishing, but speak from a space of we're going to. We are. Claim that. That speaks to leadership. I think the biggest transformation happens internally. It's got to happen inside before it ever happens externally. You often hear the phrase fake it till you make it. Not a huge fan of that, partly because I'm not really good at acting. that way. Um, I'm somebody, and maybe you are too, and many of us who are nonprofit leaders, we can wear our hearts on our sleeves. It was abundantly clear to my staff when I was having a bad day because you could see it all over my face. I couldn't fake it. It was not possible for me to do so until I changed what was going on internally and shifting from that space of lack and um, not enough and worthiness less, not being worthy of leading this organization to that of, yeah, I'm here for a reason. I'm here because I believe in this mission and I care deeply about the people that we serve. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that their lives are better. Doesn't matter what your organization does, but that has to be the focus. But we have to make that change internally. Now, let me tell you why most executive directors actually stay stuck, right, in this space, right? And it's not because you don't care. I mean, I have yet to meet an executive director who doesn't care about their mission. Many of us bounce out of bed every day, just excited to get to the work. And when we have the resources and we're not worried about the financial aspect of it, well, then that makes it even more enjoyable, right? But it's not because we don't care. In many cases, most executive directors, and this is in quite frankly, most cases, never really receive any fundraising training, workshop here and there, but not formal fundraising training. So you feel uncomfortable approaching successful people, people who have capacity, people who have means, right? We don't feel worthy to be in their presence. We have to get past that. And then we don't engage in fundraising until we're desperate. And that desperation comes through. And it's often too late to be focusing on fundraising when you're coming out of that space of desperation, that space of lack. And then, depending on events and grants, which happens often, fundraisers, you know, I think they're chasing the wrong goal. The goal is becoming a fundraising or a major gift leader, not a fundraiser. Right? That's the objective. And we have to do this so that in a way that donors trust and will invest. And that's when that shift happens. Everything changes because we start to focus on the right things. We start to focus on leading. We start to focus on the vision. And sometimes we're not thinking about that when we're sitting at our desks, going through our lists, meeting with troubleshooting, right, with staff, solving this problem that came up that you didn't expect this morning, solving that problem. And it's just, what one of the things my one of my mentors used to say, that the job is most difficult internally than it is externally. I'm talking about inside the organization as opposed to externally, because that's where all the nonsense happens. That's where all the hiccups happen. That's where all the issues happen that seem to be popping up and working against you. But when you are following these um, traits, you start to engage in reactive fundraising, which creates inconsistent revenue. It also creates constant stress. And leadership means choosing a different path. Have to. Now, what major gift leaders, people who are successful as executive directors, raising these dollars, securing these significant gifts, these transformational gifts for their mission, is what they're actually doing. They're not spending all day, asking for gifts. Here's what they're doing instead. They're meeting new people, they're deepening existing relationships, they're telling compelling stories about the mission to people that they meet. They invite donors to experience the mission. And here's the most important thing, I think, that they listen carefully. See, so much of this is about matchmaking. You are matchmaking the the interest and the passion of the donor, right, with your mission, and you make that happen. You're the conduit that makes that happen. So listening carefully and making sure that you understand what's important to that donor about what you do is critical. Follow through, also important. Stewardship is important. You have to steward these donors faithfully. I think I talked about that in the last episode, how important it is to sustain that relationship after you've secured the gift. Really, really critical. And you're constantly keeping the vision in front of people, not the problems, not the day to day, but the vision, the moving forward, the advancement of the organization, the people that are being served. In this space, there are two words that are used interchangeably in fundraising. That's development and advancement, right? And basically, when you look at those words and what they mean, advancement, and I worked in higher education in under university advancement, which was the division. And advancement was about advancing the institution. That was our role. And there were a number of us, right? A large department. I was in the fundraising space. I advanced the institution, but doing exactly what I'm talking about here. And that's engaging in meaningful conversations, building relationships and trust on behalf of the organization that ultimately led to significant gifts. Development, you're developing a relationship on behalf of the organization that will lead to a gift. That's where that comes from. And so we have to embrace that. Most of these activities that I'm talking about have nothing to do with the ask. They're about leading. They're about leading. So your mission actually needs this version of you. They have to see you stepping into this space. And this has to happen internally and externally. So here's a difficult question for you. If your mission depends on you becoming a stronger leader, are you willing to grow into that person? And when you're thinking about the answer to that question, which I'm sure is yes, but you also have to think about the people that are being served because they're depending on you. They're not walking around thinking about you specifically, but they're depending on whatever it is that you're providing to them, programs, resources, services, whatever that may be, quality staff to interact with. They depend on that. And that comes through leadership. Your organization deserves it. Your staff deserves it. Your beneficiaries, the people that you serve, deserve it. And your donors deserve it. And most importantly, you deserve the confidence that comes from knowing exactly how to lead fundraising. You deserve that. See, leadership isn't a title, right? It's not a title, it's a decision. It's a decision that you make every single day when you sit down at that desk and lead that organization. So becoming a major gift leader, it's not something that people are born with, right? Nobody is born knowing how to build transformational donor relationships. I didn't know that. I often joke about this when I speak to large groups, and I ask, especially if it's a group of fundraisers, and I ask them, "Hey, show of hands, how many people at the age of 5 knew that they were going to be nonprofit leaders and have to raise money?" And not a single hand goes up. It's not even something we think about. And partly because we're not exposed to it typically until we wind up by accident in many cases and by love of people, love of service, that we fall into this. And so we're not born into it, it happens naturally. And then the fundraising aspect of this is learned, it's practiced, it's refined. Every confident major gift leader started exactly where you are right now. Every one of them. And it doesn't matter if they work at Harvard or Johns Hopkins or Princeton University or any of the large, nonprofit organizations. Every single one of them started where you are right now. You chose to lead the organization that you're leading because you care deeply. See, the difference is that they committed to becoming the leader that their mission required. They don't need another fundraising trick. You don't need another fundraising trick. You need a framework. You need a community, perhaps a coach, an opportunity to practice. And that's how leaders grow. That's how you develop those leadership skills, by engaging in opportunities that will challenge you and will help you grow. So I have a challenge for you this week. I want you to stop asking yourself, how can I become a better fundraiser? And I want you to ask this question: what kind of leader does my mission need me to become? Ask yourself that question. Because when you become that leader, it's noticed. Donors noticed. Your board notices. Your team notices. And most importantly, as a result, your mission grows. So remember this: major gifts aren't created by perfect fundraising techniques. They're not. They're inspired by confident leaders who build authentic relationships and cast a compelling vision. And you do this with confidence. Stand firmly, 10 toes down, and cast that compelling vision. Become that leader. If you become that leader, generosity will follow. I hope this has been helpful to you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as always, this fundraising thing, it's not about the dollars. Right? At the end of the day, it's about becoming that leader that donors can trust and want to invest in, that create those transformational gifts so that those dollars go to help the people that you serve. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.